From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, this is Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith. In today's show, Mark visits with David Shirbroun of Boehringer Ingelheim, Dustin talks with Sally Fliss of Nutrien, and I have the latest South American weather and crop update with Greg McBride of Allendale. Now let's welcome in our hosts, Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman.
Well, welcome to Iowa Ag Matters on this Thursday, April the 9th. Mark, National Name Yourself Day is what it is today. So I'm Galactic President Superstar McAwesomeville. What about you, Mark? Should we call you the broadcaster formerly known as Mark Magnuson?
Yeah, sure. I didn't exactly have one on deck like you, apparently.
Yeah, only reason I know when it's National Name Yourself Day is it actually always falls on my son's namesake day. So it kind of just, always works out that way. So yeah, because today's also the anniversary of the surrender at Appomattox Courthouse ending the Civil War, and my son's named Maddox after Appomattox Courthouse. So that's why he always gets cheated out of Name Yourself Day when it's his namesake day on the same day.
Apparently so. And if I had my druthers and I got to name myself, I always was intrigued when I was little by the name Xavier because I didn't know you could have a name that started with the letter X. And I always thought that would have been very cool to have as a name. Instead, I was just stuck with, Mark.
I get where you're coming from there. I think I would change my name only because of the fact that my parents named me Dustin Hoffman. And then, you think about that, everything I had to go through when I was younger. But now it's gotten to the point where rarely anybody remembers who he is anymore. So that's kind of tapered down. But, for the first 20, 25, 30 years or so, it was getting to be a little bit of a pain. So I kind of embrace National Name Yourself Day. But we kind of just have to whatever works. So, but yeah, it's always a fun little day. But we got a lot going on here today as well, and the weather looking pretty decent out there. Warm, sunny. Of course, rain supposed to be coming in again tonight, maybe into tomorrow morning, and again over the weekend. Definitely looking like it's going to be still wet for the next couple of days. And like we said, we need moisture, but now we're getting to the point where it could shut off for a little while and it wouldn't do us any harm.
That's true. We don't want to have too much rain all at once for many different reasons. But one of those main ones is if we get the standing water in the fields, then we have to slow things down and have to wait for things to dry out before we can get really rolling with planting. But we're not to that point yet. We just need to have some nice rain to set us up for the season, hopefully, and then things don't get too wet. And also here today, a lot to think about because we do have a WASDE report. But at the same time, this one really seems to be sliding in under the radar because we just had the prospective plantings report at the end of March. I believe that was actually the last day of March. So we've just had that. That was, of course, the big report that we all had circled in red ink. Now we get this WASDE report not too long after that. But I'm going to be interested to talk with Eric Ralph of Comstock here in just a little bit on the show because I want to ask him, is this report going to fly under the radar? Are we going to move on from it pretty quickly? Because as we know, right now, there is one major story that is driving things, and that is what's happening with the war in Iran. And of course, then the oil price. And that's kind of been driving the bus. So is the WASDE report really going to make much of a difference here today as far as the ag marketplace is concerned?
Yeah, usually April does fly under the radar. It's kind of a snooze fest when you just got the updates at the end of March. It's usually how it goes. But then again, like we said, the markets, everything that's driving them have been changing, every 5 minutes. But the thing is, though, our harvest was already done from last year. So it's not like, any of the numbers. It's just going to be a little bit of a change of how much numbers do we have? How much demand do we have? And so we're going to have to wait and see how that pans out. But again, everything's going crazy with the ceasefire in the Middle East, but now Iran was shooting missiles into Israel this morning. It's going to be an interesting situation. It's always very volatile, and we'll see how that plays out. And of course, we'll get you started on that conversation with Eric Ralph as Mark talks to him about what's happening with the corn and soybean markets here today.
Joined today by Eric Ralph of Comstock for the opening market discussion. Eric, we have a WASDE report today at 11 a.m. What's happening with the trade in the grains?
Just kind of stable trade here. We're seeing a lot of green across the board, but nothing very sharply higher yet this morning. We have corn near steady. Beans are up about 3 to 4 cents. Wheat up anywhere from a penny to 3 cents. So not seeing a ton of movement. I think a lot of the position squaring was already done. And this report is not tied to a lot of volatility. Traditionally, it's more of a placeholder for the USDA. But we are seeing some surprise strength in the soybean oil after the big sell-off yesterday. Of course, that following crude this morning, crude has been a major dictator of what the grain markets have been doing of late, of course, being driven by headlines coming out of the Middle East. Today, up $6 after the $20 sell-off that everybody saw yesterday, and that lending some strength to the grains as well. Weekly exports really didn't do a lot for us, but everything else factoring in is keeping us propped up here. And honestly, yesterday with the big sell-off in the crude oil, I was surprised at the strength we saw in the grains to at least maintain some stability, with the exception of wheat, but I think that was a little more weather-related.
So, Eric, would it make sense then, would it not be the biggest surprise if we didn't really move much based on the WASDE report today in the ag marketplace, and more or less the war news and everything that's happening around the world would continue to kind of drive things?
I think that's exactly right. And I think that's the expectation of the marketplace, which is a little concerning when everybody's expecting a nothing burger from the USDA. That could be when you get a little bit of a surprise, but this April report just traditionally does not hold those. There could be a notable adjustment in wheat stocks, but aside from that, I wouldn't expect much out of this. And to your point, I think that everything else is weighing so much heavier on the market that's where the focus is.
And what is happening right now with the wheat marketplace? We don't talk a lot about wheat here in the state of Iowa because we just don't grow it very much. But what is the big downturn here in recent days?
Forecasted rainfall. And, I grew up in Western Kansas, and forecasted rainfall doesn't mean much of anything to people in wheat country. When the rain falls, then we'll believe it's coming. And right now we've seen over and over again where major areas of wheat country have been forecasted in the 5 to 10 day models to be receiving rainfall. The market slumps because of it. Then by the time you get to those dates, it's kicked the can down the road a little further and a little further. And now they're talking about us moving into a super El Nino cycle throughout the summer months this year, which does not benefit the western states. The plains and the western U.S. miss out on the moisture that the Corn Belt gets a lot of during El Nino years. So this could be a tough row to hoe for a lot of people in the plains.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
Well, now we know that the cattle markets have been riding a high for quite a long time, and one of the things we've always been talking about is the size of the herd, and that's what's keeping the prices higher. But eventually, we're going to have to see some of those herds rebuild, and Mark talks to the folks at Boehringer Ingelheim about what it's going to take and what kind of heifers they're going to be looking for.
Cow numbers have been declining for the past few years. However, with the bullish cattle market, it may be time for producers to start retaining more females. Dr. David Shirbroun, a professional services veterinarian with Boehringer Ingelheim, says that success is best achieved through heifer development.
So heifer development's definitely critical for cattle producers, because if we have developing healthy heifers, that means we're setting up our foundation of our herd for the future. In order to have a healthy and productive cow, that animal must be started out correctly. And it's not just necessarily about that post-weaning development. We need to think about development as that calf as well. If we have a healthy heifer, they have the ability to be productive for 8 to 10 years, which is definitely in these economic times very valuable for the producer. If we can get those first calf heifers to calve early, they're more likely to breed back sooner. And if they breed back sooner, then they will stay in that herd longer.
He says that when selecting replacement heifers, there are several factors that need to be considered.
Number one would be the age of the animal, so the date of birth. So we know that an older animal is more likely to be prepared to calve early and be more reproductively sound just to that added age. And then along with that, usually we'll see size is a big factor. So size at breeding. Ideally, we want to see those heifers to be at least 60% of their mature weight at the time of their first breeding. Body condition score at calving is definitely one thing that's definitely vital, not only for heifers, but also for cows as well. And we really want to see those heifers be at a body condition score of 6, and that's using a scale of 1 through 9. We want to get those heifers bred as soon as possible so that they actually calve in that first calving window.
He adds that management decisions are an important piece of the puzzle.
So the 3 categories would be management, vaccination, and parasite control. And so management's really pretty simple. It's good animal husbandry, excellent nutrition, making sure that we're having low stress handling, trying to protect those animals from different environmental conditions, try to keep them out of the heat. And so then the second category will be vaccination. And so that's obviously trying to prevent diseases and in doing these vaccinations, pre-breeding to really get ahead of the game. And so there's many different diseases that we're looking at on the reproductive side. Bovine viral diarrhea, BVD, and there's 3 different types. If we really want to try to select a vaccine that has excellent protection for all 3 strains of the BVD, and then we can also get some cross protection amongst the lepto strains, and then we're going to have much more effective health protocol in helping to develop those heifers.
Parasite control is another important aspect of animal health that cannot be overlooked, according to Shirbroun.
We really want to decrease the parasite load in these animals, specifically gastrointestinal parasites, because they just rob the animal, even if it's not an obvious sign that they're infected with these worms. In order to have the heifers better utilize their nutrition, we get rid of those worms, then they're going to gain weight better, get to that weight that we want them to get to. And so one thing that we need to look at maybe with heifers is using an extended release injectable dewormer that will actually give us full season up to 150 days of protection.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, you need reliable information. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network brings you ag-specific content like market trends, weather outlooks, and policy updates that matter to your operation, while your local station brings you community news and consistent updates on what is happening in your area. It's a partnership built for the challenges of rural life. Your farm, your local station, and your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters. Find us online at iowaagnet.com. Time to run down those basis numbers for you here on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Dustin Huffman. Seeing a little bit of a trend today. Corn prices improving anywhere from a penny to 10 cents higher. Soybeans anywhere from 3 to 9 cents higher on some of those bids. Let's take a look at where they're at. Starting at IAM Burlington, we're 9 cents under on corn, $4.40. Soybeans 30 cents under at $11.30. Cargill and Eddyville 14 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.35. New Co-op Algona 42 cents under on corn at $4.07. Soybeans are 73 cents under with a cash bid of $10.87. Ag State Sheldon 27 cents under on corn, $4.22. Soybeans 78 cents under at $10.82. At Ag State Alta, they're 39 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.10. Soybeans 73 cents under at $10.87. Cargill Cedar Rapids a dime under on corn, $4.39. Soybeans 25 cents under, cash price $11.35. And a reminder that their annual corn plant shutdown will start tomorrow and run through the 17th. Five-Star Co-op Nashua 30 cents under on corn, $4.19. Soybeans 65 cents under at $10.95. At Lincoln Way Energy Nevada 22 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.27. ADM Des Moines 30 cents under on soybeans, $11.30. New Co-op Red Oak 33 cents under on corn, they're at $4.16. Soybeans 70 cents under, $10.90. Mid-Iowa Cooperative Green Mountain 45 cents under on corn, $4.04 for the cash bid. Soybeans 78 cents under at $10.82. New Co-op Sheraton 34 cents under on corn, $4.15. Soybeans 70 cents under, cash bid $10.90. Waukon Feed Ranch 42 cents under on corn, $4.07. Soybeans 60 cents under at $11 even. New Co-op Glidden 40 cents under on corn, $4.09 for the cash bid. Soybeans 73 cents under, $10.87. Innovative Ag Farley 45 cents under on corn, $4.04. Soybeans 71 cents under at $10.89. And at Cargill Muscatine today, they're 26 cents under on corn at $4.23. Soybeans are 34 cents under with a cash bid of $11.26. Cash corn and soybean bids are subject to change without notice. Always check with your local elevator when making sales to obtain the most recent price. That's been a check of your basis numbers here on Iowa Ag Matters. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay informed with the closing market report from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, your essential summary of the day's market activities and their impact on the agricultural economy. Join us for timely updates and expert commentary on commodity prices and market trends with trusted ag market analysts from around the Midwest. Tune in every Monday through Friday on your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate for your daily market recap and insights to stay ahead in the ag economy.
You're listening to the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and a reminder, if you haven't signed up yet for our newsletter, you can do so by heading to iowaagnet.com. Just click on the subscribe button, and that will send our 5 daily news stories to your email inbox each day. It is time now for the South America weather and crop update. Here's Greg McBride with Riley Smith.
On the phone right now with Greg McBride of Allendale as we take a look at the conditions in South America for another week. First off, Greg, what's the latest weather patterns looking like for Brazil and Argentina?
Yeah, you've got plenty of rain in the 1 to 5 day forecast for most of Brazil. Argentina a little bit on the drier side. Now they did just come off some rain over the weekend, so they're sitting okay. 6-10 day forecast again showing a little bit drier pattern for Argentina. So this will be something to watch. You do have a little bit drier in southern Brazil, but for the most part, still doing very well. We are in the point with regard to Brazil that they are in that second crop corn pollination time frame. So this will be the time where they do want to see some rain. They don't want to see, very hot and dry conditions as they're pollinating. So seeing some of that rain, maybe some cooler temps will definitely help them out when it comes to the pollination period.
And then speaking of that crop progress in Brazil, how are they looking there right now?
Yeah, soybeans now sitting at 79% through last Friday. They're still behind last year, which was 87%. The 5-year average is still sitting at 83%. So they're getting closer to being caught up with last year in the 5-year average, but still lagging behind a little bit. You look at the first crop corn harvest sitting at 64%. That's in line with the 5-year average, just slightly ahead of of where they were at this point last year. And then second crop, like I said, is all completely planted. It is for the most part going into or into the very early stages of pollination.
And then down in Argentina, how are they looking?
Yeah, Argentina doing very well. Their corn harvest is 23% complete. That puts them ahead of last year, which was 16, and the 5-year average at 14. We should be starting to see soybean harvest updates in the next week or two. So for right now, it's just corn, but doing very well on their harvest at this point.
And then when we think of the WASDE report coming up here this week yet, what changes do we expect to potentially see, especially when it comes down to that South America crop?
Yeah, we're not looking for anything major on this report. Obviously we are still in active harvest for a lot of this crop. So we will still be trying to dial in, but it still stands that we are looking at fairly good size, a decent crop out of Argentina. We're still looking at a monster crop out of Brazil. No major changes there. We're talking about potentially 52 million tons of corn in Argentina, 48 million tons of soybeans, which are basically in line with where they were at on the previous report. In Brazil, we're talking about 132.5 million tons for corn. That would be up about 500,000 tons from the last report. And then on soybeans, sitting just shy of 180 million tons, which is just slightly lower, not even 250,000 tons lower than the previous report.
All right, Greg, lots of great information today. For anyone who would like to get in touch for more marketing information from Allendale, how can they do that?
Give us a call at 800-2-MARKET. That's 800-262-7538.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
Well, of course, we are not quite to planting season in full swing, but we are thinking about all the things that go into planting season. And with the weather warming up, we are always taking a look at those 4-inch soil temperatures to make sure we are where we need to be when we get out in the field. Dustin, what's it look like here today on a day where we are sitting with a pretty mild start to the day in central Iowa?
Well, the days have been warming up. I mean, even yesterday with the rain, we were looking at around 72, 73 degrees. And so that is having, of course, an effect on the soil temperatures. And we're seeing a range in the extreme northwest corner of the state at around 44 degrees. That is the coldest. But then you get down to Keokuk in that area, and that is the hottest temperatures in the soil right now at 60 degrees. We're seeing a lot of low to mid 50s, some upper 50s in the extreme southeast, low to mid 50s in the southern third, all the way up into the eastern part near the Quad Cities in that area, but then upper 40s throughout most of that area as well. Again, mid 50s along the northern tier states, but definitely seeing those temperatures get very close to where they need to be. Of course, with the wetness you're seeing in a lot of parts of the state, it's still going to slow you down. And, if you're wanting to get anhydrous on, you're going to have to wait till it dries out just a little bit more if you didn't get it on already. But the temperatures are finally moving back in the right direction after we saw a drop. I mean, we were in the 30s yesterday in some places and across much of the state even 2 days ago. So to see it get back up to 60 degrees, that's definitely what we want to see. The sun coming out, that's going to help a lot. Of course, though, we got more rain in the forecast. That's still going to slow things down for getting anything done. But again, things are heading in the right direction. We're only at April 10th. I think by the second half of the month, we're going to start seeing those planters roll if the rain can hold off long enough, Mark.
And I thought it was very interesting, too, to see the wheat price really take a tumble here in recent days. And talking with Eric Ralph of Comstock this morning, he mentioned, yes, that's in large part due to that weather forecast because they're getting some rain right now in parts in wheat country, but also looking towards the long-term future, the El Nino pattern that is moving in, that does not set up well for the western states and the states that grow wheat, because they are not expected to get as much rain in those areas in the western portions of the country. We will have more Iowa Ag Matters in a moment.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you. This is the Midday Market Update on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson. Joined in midday by Brandon Doherty of Total Farm Marketing. Brandon, it is WASDE report day. We're just getting the report in our hands. What are we learning here at the first glance?
Yeah, so relatively neutral overall. In fact, for the U.S. ending stocks, there was no change to corn, no change to beans. The only change there was an increase on wheat from 931 to 938 million bushels, and expectations actually for a slight decline there. So that's a little bit negative to the wheat market. As far as world numbers go, again, looks pretty neutral. No major changes there. Other than, again, the wheat ending stocks came in a little bit higher than expectations, a few million metric tons higher. As far as production in South America, no changes to corn and no changes to beans. Expectations were for maybe just slightly increase on corn for both Brazil and Argentina, but came in with no changes.
So, Brandon, with this report looking pretty neutral overall, does that mean that we will move on from it pretty quickly and go back to focusing on the Middle East and what's happening with the oil price?
I think so. I think now that the report's over with and once traders kind of digest everything that it has to say, I think we're going to go back to not only focusing on the Middle East, but focusing on early spring here in the U.S. and planting and weather conditions. Now, as far as the Middle East goes, that has been back and forth in terms of headlines. Crude oil was down quite sharply yesterday due to the temporary peace agreement. However, it sounds like Iran is accusing Israel of breaking that agreement after attacking Lebanon, which has crude oil up about $4 to $5 a barrel in the front month this morning.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade today?
Kind of mixed to higher. Right now I have live cattle up, feeders are up, hogs are mostly lower, but it's a relatively quiet day. We're not up by a ton in the cattle, not down by a ton in the hogs. No real fresh news that I've seen there today. So I think we're just going to kind of continue to trade the cash market in the cattle, and hogs we need to watch where we are relative to the index, because that hog index is at about 90.30, which would put it below all of the nearby futures contracts. So that means the futures might come down to meet that index. It might be why we're under a bit of pressure here.
Brandon Doherty of Total Farm Marketing, my guest here today. What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
The best way is to call us at 800-334-9779.
Start your weekend with insight and inspiration on Weekend Ag Matters from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Every week we bring you an in-depth look at the top ag stories with a recap of the week's biggest headlines. Join us for long-format interviews with industry leaders and policymakers, giving you insights you won't hear anywhere else. And don't miss our faith-based segment with Russ Parker, Food for Thought, offering a perspective that helps bring clarity and focus to our lives. Make Weekend Ag Matters part of your weekend routine. Tune in every weekend on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
May corn down 3 1/4 at $4.44. May soybeans up 4 cents at $11.66. May soybean meal up $4.20 at $3.1830. May soybean oil up 42 at $67.84. On the Merc, April live cattle up 10 cents at $249.10. April feeder cattle up 43 at $371.10. May lean hogs down 15 at $96.23. May pork cutout unchanged at $108.78. That was a check of the midday markets on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson.
Back into the marketplace we go here on Iowa Ag Matters. Find out what's happening in those livestock markets as they started off the day a little bit into the red. Eric Ralph of Comstock rejoining the conversation once again with Mark Magnuson to tell us what's going on.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade?
We are seeing a little lower trade in the cattle here this morning. Feeders steady to 80 cents lower. No big pullbacks or anything. The market remains very firm, fundamentally very well supported. The one thing we have been seeing of late that has caught a lot of attention is the fact that choice cuts are well below select. That doesn't happen very often. When it does, it's not for very long. And so what's going to give here remains to be seen, but kind of an interesting dynamic where your higher end cuts are actually at a lower price. That tells you that either there is a really strong demand for grinding meat, or we are seeing some waning demand for the premium cuts just due to price and consumer sentiment. So maybe that's the factor. We're trading steaks for gasoline right now, maybe. I don't know exactly what's going on, but that has definitely caught some attention. And we're seeing some weakness in the hogs of late as well. We just hit some significant technical resistance. July has traded up to $110 3 times in the last 5 sessions. And that's caught hedge pressure, and it pulls us back, and then we tread water between 105 and 110, get back up there again and start the process over. So if we can break those summer months beyond 110, that's going to be a key deal, and we'll just have to keep our eyes peeled and see if something like that's possible.
We know that every year the demand for grilling season, the demand goes up because of grilling season. Is this year the first year in a while where it's kind of a question mark about just how much that demand will be because of the beef prices?
I think it's because of the beef prices and because of the fuel prices and the overall sentiment regarding just general cost of goods moving forward. You know, when we talk about inflation, of course, fuel is the headline of everybody's concern list right now, but general inflation expected to be a full % higher over the next 12 months than what we've seen for the last 12 months. And that has a major impact with the growth from a gross dollar standpoint. And that definitely is impacting people's purchasing power through the next 12 months here, if that does come to fruition. And those expectations have people a little jittery right now.
Eric Ralph of Comstock, my guest here today. What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
You can catch us on all social media outlets. You can go to the Comstock channel on YouTube. You can go to our website at comstock.com or just give us a call, 712-227-1110.
Thanks so much for the time here today. Always appreciate it, and have a great day.
You too, Mark. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
You're listening to Iowa Ag Matters on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. It is time now for Dustin Huffman's conversation with Nutrien as they learn about some of the rebate programs going into the 2026 season. Here's Dustin with more.
I'm with Sally Fliss right now of Nutrien. Sally, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So we're going to be talking about some stuff that's really top of mind for farmers all over the country, no matter what region you're in, and that is the cost of doing business this year and being successful at it. And obviously, with some of the tools you guys have available at Nutrien, you can help them address some of those concerns. Let's talk about, first of all, what you guys are seeing and the product that we're going to be talking about here today.
Yeah, so we've got multiple offers out on the ground for growers in Iowa around corn or soybeans, where growers can get paid for doing different sustainability practices. They fall under our Farm Smart umbrella, and so we've got a nitrogen management program for growers where they can work with us to reduce their nitrogen application rate through use of other products or tools that we have available. And then they actually get paid for the tons of emission reductions that they achieve from the practices that they implement in the field. Our other program is with Boehringer around soybeans, and that is for implementing cover crops, no-till, nutrient management to provide lower... Sorry, can I start that over?
Go ahead.
Our other program is with Boehringer, and that is working with soybeans around cover crops, no-till, nutrient management to produce regenerative beans that can be sold to downstream customers that are using the soybean oil or the soybean meal.
So it's obviously very important because there's farmers that are thinking about these conservation projects, but obviously it costs money to do them. They'd like to see some kind of return on that investment, and rightfully so.
Exactly. It costs something to do it. If nothing else, even in the nitrogen management program, it's a change in what they're doing every year, and there's a risk there to making a change in your management practices.
All right, so then talk about how folks can get involved in these kinds of projects.
Yeah, so they can reach out to their... we'll start that word. No, we're in the middle of an interview.
Go ahead and start that over again.
All right, how they can get involved. Growers can reach out to their local branch locations, or they can reach out to myself and the Sustainable Ag team, and we'll help connect them with the right parts of the organization to get enrolled.
Now, let's say you've already started these practices and you want to get enrolling. What does it take to get all that enrollment taken care of, and how long is the process?
The enrollment process is pretty simple. It is a pretty intensive amount of data that's collected in order for us to generate the outcomes that the downstream customers want to purchase. But it's nothing that you shouldn't be looking at anyway. So we record every pass that happens in that field from the day after the previous crop was harvested through the day of the target crop being harvested. So planting, fertilization, pesticide applications, if there's any tillage, and then harvest and yield data. So it's all management data that can bring you value in decision making, in addition to helping bring value from a downstream buyer.
Okay, so if folks want to start that process, look if they want to get qualified, where's the best place to start again? nutrienagsolutions.com/FarmSmart. Okay. Sally, is there anything else we didn't cover today that our Iowa growers should really be thinking about?
We are getting close to figuring out what we do with this 45Z thing as it comes out. So
I know that's one of the topics with these cover crops and things like that. Talking to farmers, they say, I take my grain to an ethanol plant. How do they get the tax credits and I don't for all the work I'm doing? So it's definitely a conversation that has to be had.
Yeah, so we're waiting, as everyone is, on the government to issue all their final rulings. But we're getting prepared to figure out what is the data that we need to collect to help the growers calculate the CI score and what's that chain of custody to the ethanol plant to help bring the value back to the grower as the program starts to become available this summer, hopefully.
All right. Well, Sally, we thank you so much for the insight and tell us about some of these projects.
No problem.
Stay up to date with the latest in the ag industry with Agribusiness Matters from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Each weekday, we bring you the latest advancements in farming, from new precision ag technology to cutting-edge sustainable farming practices. Agribusiness Matters is also your source for the most relevant ag news, policy discussions, and insights that are shaping the future of agriculture. Tune in to Agribusiness Matters on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I have been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
You've been listening to Iowa Ag Matters. Thanks for joining us for today's show. Thank you as well to Riley and to Dustin. I'm Mark Magnuson. You've been listening to Iowa Ag Matters. Join us again tomorrow. And in the meantime, you can find us online at iowaagnet.com. Get signed up for our newsletter as well. And thanks again for joining us here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.